Well, hello and welcome. Today's topic is very interesting, very needed, very anticipated. High expectations for incoming government. And I'm sure around the coffee table, around the offices, everywhere you've gone, that's one thing that's on everybody's mind. Everybody's anticipating what's the new government going to do. And we all have high expectations with the numerous promises that have been made. We're just sitting at home and marking as to whether we need 70, 80, 90%. And that's our expectations. Indeed, it has come to pass. 7 December has come, Ghana has spoken, God has spoken, and the president-elect now has to deliver on all the promises that he has promised the nation. Will it be possible? Can he do it? Indeed, governing on the campaign trail, is it not much more simpler than it is governing from the Flagstaff House when now you're dealing with actual numbers and not just words? But that's what we're going to discuss today. My name is Nana Sakwa IV, Akufo-Addo Masahene, and also your host. When I come back, I'll introduce my fine gentleman as a guest, and then the conversation will start, so don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying, and high expectations for incoming government. With me in the studio is Dr. Ziblim Idi, MP-elect for Gushegu constituency. I want to say congratulations, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I've been here but not with you. And,
no.
It's always great to be with royalty. and so I thank you. Thank you for the comment.
And I know you're royalty yourself.
Well, yes, but far away from where you are. Yes. I'm
your father.
I'm a royalty from Gushegu.
So your father is the...
My father, well, he's deceased, but he was a chief.
Oh, he was a chief.
Okay. My uncle is now the chief of Gushegu.
I see.
He's a regent, actually.
Wow. Here we're not going to do royal here. Now we're doing politics and economy. But let me read from the Gold Street Business. This is Monday, the 12th December edition. And it's a front page story: growth, jobs, critical challenges facing new government. And it reads, the new government must rapidly grow the economy to create more job opportunities if Ghana is to avoid a looming socio-economic crisis, says the private sector chief. The Private Sector Enterprise Federation, PFP, CEO Nana Osei-Bonsu observed in an interview with Gold Street Business that without aggressive, proactive job creation and youth employment strategies, we are glaring at job scarcity, social tension, and a lost generation of young people in Ghana. The World Bank in 2016 estimated that 48% of the country's youth between 15 and 24 years are jobless. The Ghana Living Standards Survey, GLSS, of 2012 and 2013 established that 250,000 young men and women enter the Ghanaian labor market yearly. Of the number, only up to 3% are absorbed in the public sector, while the remaining 97% seek employment in the private sector or stay unemployed. Obviously, the domestic private sector constitutes the largest employer of labor, and even there, only 6.2% are engaged formally, with 86.7% being in the informal sector. Now that alone and many more are one challenge and a half. Let me come back to Doc. Doc, even in America, I heard somebody, they were asking about Trump's promises.
Mm-hmm.
America of all places. And one of the lecturers said, oh, well, on the campaign trail, you can say many things, but once you get in the office, you're not expected to deliver all those things. The campaign, the messages that you've thrown out, is it that you were expecting that, Ghanaians are not expecting that we will deliver all these things, so, let us go ahead and make as many promises as we want. Once we come into power, we will, maybe hope to achieve 60%, hope to achieve 70%, and they will forgive us.
Interesting. Well, first of all, let me say good evening to your viewers, and especially the good people of the Gushewo constituency. I think this is the first opportunity I have to thank them for reposing the confidence in me.
And I have a lot of viewers up north, so I'm sure.
Yes.
And if there's anybody in Gushewu, the number is 0560 800 000. 0560 800 000. Send your messages in.
I must say that they voted very massively for me. For the first time, the MPP presidential candidate won along with the parliamentary candidate. And it was an orphan constituency. And for the first time since 1992, I won with a margin that was unprecedented, 4,000, difference between myself and the incumbent MP. So thank you to...
Who was the incumbent?
Thomas Nasa, Thomas Kwesi Nasa. He was going for a third term. So that means that he's a good material for his party. So he was going for the third time. And so thank you for that. Let me say that we were very confident going into the election. So our promises were not mere slogans or promises that were not meant to be implemented. As a matter of fact, our manifesto was driven by research. And so everything that we said or put into the manifesto was backed by scientific evidence in terms of the research that went into collecting data, analyzing it, and coming to the conclusion that this was what the state of the economy is likely going to be, and if that is what it is, we should be able to achieve A, B, C, D. Now, I know you started your preamble by referring to jobs, and it's appropriate because then I think His Excellency the President-elect put jobs at the forefront of his campaign, and we are very confident that job creation comes from two areas: public, private. Now, you know that the MPP is a business-friendly party. And so our job creation, our promises as far as job is concerned, was to ensure that we create more opportunities in the private sector for jobs. The public sector will always be there, in terms of budgetary allocation to ministries that will create space for them to absorb, young and upcoming graduates. But we thought that if we, increase the space for the private sector by being business friendly, and so that comes along with the policies on tax relief, tax rebates, and all the things that makes businesses more, proactive in opening up space for the young ones to come in. So we are very, and especially in the north, or the three northern regions, when you talk about that large percentage outside of the public sector, you're also talking about agriculture. And so we're going to push so much into agriculture. So the three northern regions, there's going to be opportunity for job creation for the youth in agriculture. And then if you go down to our big cities, the urban cities, we expand the private sector by, implementing real, true business-friendly policies, taxes, rebates, making sure that, businessmen feel more comfortable, with the government, but not seeing the government as somebody who is constraining them and restricting their business activities.
Because, you see, one thing which is scary is data collection, information, research are not very forthcoming in this side of the world. I mean, I was even trying to get a little bit of numbers for this show. I mean, I could only get as far as just July.
Yeah.
So as far as July, the deficit, was 8.5 billion, even though the target was 4 billion. With election and everything round in the corner, with all these roads and airports being built, God knows what the deficit is now, if it's gone up or lower. And, I don't know if you had access to some of these numbers to base your economic projections on what numbers?
Interestingly, our Vice President-elect, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, I had a privilege of hosting him in my constituency for 3 days. He came through my constituency. We did Kushegu, we did Karaga, and then he left for, I think, one of the other constituencies. And so we had very intensive discussions on these matters. I asked him a lot of questions about, how we were able to arrive at some of these, promises. And he said that what is fascinating about Ghana is that a lot of people, well, he said it already, don't read. Because some of this data that you are talking about, somehow he is able to get access to it. And he said, these are public data. So I don't know where you were looking at, but he seems to get data
that's more information than I do.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so most of the things that he came up with, as far as $1 million, because I'm very particular about that, $1 million for every concert. And he said it's doable because, the research shows that if you can realign budgetary allocations and, still save some money to do that. And that will not go into your consolidated allocation to distrust some local common fund and all of that. So there's money for that. So somehow we're privileged to have him who somehow has a way of getting access to data. And so the manifesto was informed by solid scientific data. And I'm convinced that most of the things that I share with him that he told me that if it comes to pass, we're really going to be in good shape as far as, fulfilling most of the promises that we gave to the people.
So one thing which Ghanaians will not forgive you for is you come and make a statement like, oh, we didn't realize that the coffers were empty, or we didn't know that things were as bad as we thought. I mean, now that we've gone in, we realize that things are really, really bad. I mean, I think that the day you make that statement, consider yourself a one-term government.
Well, I think it will not be politically wise to make such a statement. But of course, political expedience will also demand that we manage expectations. One of the reasons why most governments that came out of colonialism collapsed, was that they were not able to manage expectations. And it's always the case that when you are coming into government or when you are promising to get into government, you raise people's expectations. Now, if we manage to achieve, I was even saying to somebody yesterday, that if we achieve just even 40% of these promises in 4 years, the Ghanaian people are going to be good with us.
40%, is that not too low?
Look, 40% across board, in terms of dams, in terms of factories, in terms of all of that. I'm not saying that's what we are going to, but I'm saying even if we are able to just achieve 40%, there is no way you can achieve 100% of your promises. But so if you go 60, 70%, you are cut and dry. Especially if you address the fundamental issues. You see, I think most of our promises are hinged on the fundamentals, the economic, the economy. If we're able to get the fundamentals right, a lot of the things that we promise will come through the private sector.
No, before I move on to my next question, let me beg to differ a little bit. As far as promises are concerned, you should be able to do 100% of your promises because I'm promising you. So I should tell you that, listen, I can only give you 2. But I can't say I'll give you 10 and say, well, I only give you 4 because you don't expect me to fulfill all my promises. It's not an obligation or a force. It's a promise. It's something you are telling me you're going to do. So if you are telling me you're going to do, you have to tell me what it is that you can do. So 40% will be...
Well, I didn't say we are going to do 40%. I'm saying that if we are able to do just 40%.
That's a complete failure and
it's not a complete... Well, let's wait and see what that 40% will be. I'm saying 40% of across board doing things that are fundamental that will open up other opportunities for the economy. But let me assure you that in the areas of dams, factories, especially those two, which are key, I think we should be able to do, if not 80 to 90% in 4 years. I'm excited about the dams because, coming from the three northern regions, you will find that even on the campaign trail, when that is mentioned, the excitement of the people, not just even on the larger scale of using it for agriculture, but just providing water for livestock and for household use. So it's critical. And if the $1 million per constituency come to pass, we should be able to do that 100%. I should be able to do those dams in my constituency, and I will expect, across about 200 and even less than 200 and something like that. Because you're looking at the 3 northern regions, should be able to do that. So most of the promises, as I said, will depend on how we are able to get the fundamentals of the economy right. But what people forget is that in 1999, as a matter of fact, Ghana was declared HIPIC in 1999 before we even got to 2000.
Let's do the dams and then we go back.
Okay, sure.
You see, I've never been to the north, even though I've...
Oh, don't say that.
Yes, I've never been there, And
okay. So after inauguration, we'll probably have to...
You have to invite me. You have to invite me up north, because it's one place I really want to go. With the dam issue, it's even though the statement says that every village is going to get a dam. I take my little village in Edumasa, right? Yeah. There are like 5 little towns, or the Ajinapes, 3 little towns, all clustered very, very close together. And there's one stream that runs along all these 3 towns. I mean, you could probably dam it in the first town, and then we all probably tap into it, or dam it at the last town, and then we all tap it. Is that what's going to happen, or you're literally going to dam everything? Because as soon as you say that, then political rhetoric comes in. Oh, it means that every village, every little hut, has to have a dam. What are the demography of this damming business?
So when you put out a policy, it's a broad framework that you are putting out. And so when you then get down to do implementation, you are faced with the realities in terms of the nature of the villages, how they are able to connect, how they are able to relate, all of these things you have to put into consideration. And so I even, I made some jokes in some villages. My mother comes from a village not far from the Gushigu, and there are 2 villages, Pogi and Yarongo, and it's just a football park that divides the 2 villages. So, and ever since I was a child, they will always quarrel over everything. So when you have such 2 villages, you have to separate them with 2 different dams. If you put one dam in the middle, they will always quarrel. So of the situation in terms of the relationships, and all of that. Then you have to do 2 villages. And I'm saying that in my constituency, we have about 300 and something villages. Now, the policy was that every village gets a dam, except if you already have one. So you are likely to have maybe out of 300 villages, maybe 60, 80, maybe close to 100 already having dams. So you are dealing with 200. And this is across all 3 northern regions. It's not the case that you go into a constituency and there is no one village with a dam. So if you have that policy, you are actually targeting every village to have a dam. And that's what you are going to do. Now, where you have 3, 4 villages in a cluster situation where they can relate, peacefully, all, with one dam, you do that. So we're going to see how that will pan out. But you go in with the mentality and the attitude that you are going to provide a dam for each and every village. And
then irrigated, or how?
Okay, so that's another question that comes up. You remember I was saying in the northern region, and I will imagine the other 2 upper west, just the mention of a dam, right, raises people's expectation, excitement, because one, water is life. And water just for household choice. You go to villages where people have to walk 15 miles just to get to water. And so if you are setting out a policy, the intent is to do it for irrigation. Do a big dam that can be used for 3 purposes: for household, for livestock, and for irrigation. Now, if you were to go into a village where they have access to a river, like in your case, where they can easily draw water for agriculture, you don't necessarily have to do a big dam for agriculture. So you do one that will serve livestock and household use. So it will vary depending on the situation. And of course, there will be villages where even if you were to do a big dam, they cannot maximize the use of it in terms of agricultural activities, depending on the dynamics, the nature of their climate and whether they can farm in the dry season and what it will be useful for. And so all of that you have to put into. But the policy, I think those who put it together have probably mapped out areas where we really have to do irrigation dams and villages where maybe small dam for livestock and household use would be appropriate.
But is there a stream or river or lake in every little village? You have winding, all the villages are clustered around the waterway?
Well, not every little village. I can speak for my constituency. I don't know everywhere in the three northern regions, but I don't think every little village there is a stream or a river. But what you will find is that you can, there will be tributaries, running from other areas, and maybe they are passing through, and you can use that for collecting water. And also, if you dig a dam, a huge dam, it can collect water. So most of the dams that we have in the north duck out that collects water, and if it's big enough, it can stay for the dry season. Maybe those dams may not be appropriate for agricultural, irrigation purposes. So those that you can, dig along waterways, you can do big ones. But villages where they just want water for household use, you can do a duck out, that can collect water, which can stay throughout the dry season, and it's huge. For the past 3 years, Gushogo Township, has suffered severe water crisis because the only dam in the town has not been, there has not been whatever they call it, dredged. Have not been dredged for 3 years, or maybe for more than 3 years. But the last 3 years has really been severe, and throughout our campaign, we gave promise, and we're going to do that. The moment it is dry, we're going to go in and dredge it, and that alone can keep the people at least, for the dry season, and then when the rains fall, they will be good.
Doc, there's another issue which is good news and skating on thin ice here. And traders reduced prices to celebrate MPP victory. Goya says a vociferous seller of second-hand clothing indicated that they have resolved to reduce men's shirts from 10 Ghana cedis to 5 Ghana cedis. The taxes I pay for bringing in a bale of clothes will now reduce, and I can sell out and still make some profit. She said with glee. Some of the traders ran through the market, wielding placards, shouting, "President John Ramahani, your time is over." Today, Joy News also went to Bosiokai, spare parts dealers, and said, look, with our next crop, by the time we get to the ports, prices and taxes would have come down, so we are passing it on to the traders. It's all good news. But then it all boils down to, what if the next container comes and it's like, hold on, I'm unable to give you all these VATs and all these tax reductions that I've promised. I mean, that's going to be a major blow. This is how much confidence people are already putting in without you even reducing or even getting into office. How do you feel? What's the heat is on, the pressure is on?
Well, I watched your footage on the Abosoka, and I was excited. I just made some purchases last week from Abosoka for my car. I wish I had delayed to do that this week. But on a serious note, look, businesses thrive on speculation. And so they are speculating that the MPP gave promises, and those promises they believed will come into fruition. And so that's why this reduction, every businessman has this thing we call markup and margin and all of that. So the price is always loaded with, a profit that is based on how much you paid at the port and all of that. So if they speculate that the MPP, and you say, for me as somebody who is a member of the MPP, I think I'm proud when I see traders really believing in us, that they saw what we did in 8 years, and they believe that if we come back, we're going to do that. And I started by saying that the MPP was born out of business. We are business friendly. And so we go, if we can't do anything, those promises that we gave to the private sector, to businesses, we have to implement it, and we're going to implement it. And so they will not be disappointed. Those VAT and all of that, I told you that we did a lot of research. So the question is, look, revenue, if you use taxes to raise revenue, I think, one guy said it famous, it's like, standing in a bucket and trying to lift it with water. You can't do that. So we have come to the understanding that reducing taxes creates space for businesses. And so for the poor man in Abosokan, he knows how much he pays at the port. And if we are going to take that out, it's going to lessen the burden on him, and he should be able to pass that on to his customer. So it's good news for Ghanaians, and it will further reduce, because then we have not even started implementing these policies. And I would say, that the president-elect will not take Ghanaians for granted by just giving empty promises that we don't think we can fulfill. We've been there before, and so for the business. The private sector, they believed in an MPP government to come through with the promises that will be business friendly.
I want to take a break here, and then when I come back, I would want to find out, mostly the traders in the Ashanti region, traders in Busiokai, predominantly Ashantis, more probably MPP inclined. Were they being wicked to the Mahama government by jacking up their prices too high? Where from this 30% discount, if they could have reduced it, why didn't they reduce it and still make the profit they claim they're still making? Stay tuned, we're coming. It's going to get exciting. Thank you very much for staying with me in the studio. Dr. Ziplim Idi, MP-elect for Gushegu constituency for the MPP, and we are here finding out how it is they're going to manage expectations that are out there. And before we went on the break, in the Ashanti region, in Greater Accra, some traders have already reduced their wares in anticipation that their next goods that are going to come, the taxes are going to be reduced, and therefore they are passing on the reduction already. Now, on Evan Spencer's show on Joy FM this at 6 p.m. the 6 p.m. news, interviewed an NDC gentleman who I can't remember the name, but he then said that these guys maybe have been wicked to the JDM government, because if all this time they could have reduced their worth, why then do they keep the prices up?
Well, I don't think that all these people are patriotic Ghanaians. I mean, they are patriotic Ghanaians, and I don't think they will go out of their way to do things that will sabotage, a government. Especially, I don't think anybody could say for certainty that the MPP were going to come to power. And so if you sabotage the NDC all the way up to December 7th, 2016, then you could then come back and spare Ghanaians with that sabotage. I don't think so. The reality of the economic situation in this country in the last 8 years is that we have been saddled with hike in taxes, taxes here, left, right, center. And so if you are a businessman, you are mindful of your business, your profit margin. How much are you going to put on in terms of your markup or your margin to be able to survive and keep your business going on? So it wasn't for nothing that we saw inflation rising. We saw prices all over the place going up. I don't think it was a sabotage. Now, the reduction that we are experiencing, or we are seeing, not across board, in some select areas, is because the speculation, they are speculating. And it is because of the confidence, that if you live in this country from 2001 to 2008, you don't have to wait for somebody to come and tell you that if the MPP is in power, they are able to manage the economy in such a way that your businesses will thrive. So that gives them that hope and confidence that if they begin to reduce the prices, they will not feel the pinch, especially if knowing that in the next 2 to 3 months, things are really going to get stabilized. And businesses also thrive on customers. So why don't you take the opportunity and begin to reduce prices so that you can attract customers and keep them, even as you wait for the MPP to come on board and for their policies to roll out.
Let me go to the phones and speak to Professor Achu-Ayi, the senior fellow on the IEA. Prof, you're welcome.
Yes.
Prof, you're welcome to the show. Prof, we're looking at the expectations of the new incoming government on how they will manage the economy. And but there's so many things that they've thrown or they've promised the nation, and we are expecting them to deliver. Let me just give you preliminary comments. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you foresee the new government facing?
Okay, before I begin, let me, congratulate my colleague, Dr. Idris Ibrahim, for winning his seat at the first attempt. I hope that he will do well. I think the new government is coming to power with a lot of expectations, high expectations actually. There is more or less euphoria that the government is going to change things. I only pray that that euphoria will not wane, that I only pray that the government would need to actually try as much as possible to deal with the issues. I think the first thing which will confront the new administration is to put a ministerial team together as quickly as possible. I would have thought that we should have been listening to some names being mentioned in batches now to form the ministerial team. With the ministerial team in place, then of course we can deal with the other issues about the economy, especially the macroeconomic environment. Inflation is about 16%. Credit rates are still high, and all that. So the government will need to tackle the economy. The economy, if the economy is booming, then of course job opportunities will be there. Then of course the government's promise of one district, one factory, then of course the promise of one village, one dam, all these promises will have to be met. The problem is the issue of money. If there is money to deal with these things, I'm not expecting anything drastic within 100 days. It will take time for policies to mature. And being a student of policies and politics, I would not expect too much within the first year. Of course, the second year, then we can see some issues cropping up. So the economy is key, jobs, very important. And what do we need at all? In any developmental process, we are looking at what is happening to poverty, what is happening to unemployment, and what is happening to inequality. If these things are sorted out, then of course we can look at other issues. So apart from the economy, the jobs and all that, we also need to look at constitutional reforms. We have a Constitution Review Implementation Committee in place. It's supposed to submit its final report in December. The new government will have to look at how to deal with those recommendations by the CRIC. That's also very important. Actually, most of us have, forgotten about the work of the CRIC or the CRIC. Most of us have, forgotten about that. But as time goes on, the new government will have to take on board some of the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee's recommendations. So, in a nutshell, I would say that it's a very daunting and Herculean task. And I'm not expecting anything much within 100 days or even within 1 year. It will take time for policies to mature. So we need to give the government time. I think Ghanaians need to be patient to actually wait and see the results of the new government's policies, because policies will go beyond 1 year. So I would expect that the government itself should try as much as possible to more or less inform people. So communication management is also very important. If there are problems being faced about the achievement of the promises, of course, the people of Ghana must know. So communication management will also be key to allay the fears of people about the economy, about jobs, and other issues.
Prof, let me come in here. I mean, here we are. We already have traders who are reducing their wares in expectation that taxes are going to come down. The Nana Osei-Bonsu, the Private Enterprise Federation CEO, has also hinted that, listen, it's all about jobs, jobs, jobs. traders are reducing their wares. I mean, are you coming to tell them that, well, bear with me for a year because within the next year, there isn't much I can do. The previous government did this. I mean, are we going to be that patient?
I think that the reduction in prices of goods is just a temporary measure, just a gesture. That's the euphoria I referred to, the euphoria. I think prices would, stabilize. And I think that it's a free market, economy. People can reduce, can increase, prices. But I think the reduction in prices of certain goods may be part of the euphoria. As we go on, prices will find their own levels. And of course, that shows the goodwill towards this government. I mean, to the point that for the very first time in the history of the country, traders willingly reduce prices. That shows the euphoria and the goodwill for this government. And I think the new government should not take this gesture, should not underrate this gesture.
Another issue, Prof, will be the issue of broadening taxes. And, we need to broaden taxes so that we can get more revenue. Even though we are, the government is promising to reduce taxes, then it means that you need to go and collect more. But here we are with, so much of the economy, over 80% in the informal sector. I mean, that is a Herculean task.
Okay, that's a very important point. I know that people in the public sector have been complaining that they have been overtaxed. It has always been the problem because there is a large informal sector. And the people are not, it's difficult to pin them down to pay taxes. I mean, if you look at, hawker who goes round, it's difficult to target him or her to actually pay taxes. So I think the problem will also be how can we ensure that the tax base is broadened? How do we ensure that people in the public sector are not overtaxed? Because the complaints are always there. And of course, we also need to look at corporate taxes. The corporate sector is also, complaining about high corporate taxes. So in any economy, there must be more or less a way of sharing the tax burden. And that is one of the major things that we have not done as a country. We need to broaden the tax base. And so once with the informal sector, it has been tried. If you look at the transportation sector, the various groups, the GPRTU and the various transport unions, the collection of lorry taxis were actually contracted out. So I think we also need to deal with that. So good that the Ghana Union of Traders Association will also have to deal with them. But the real problem is those hawkers, those people in the informal sector who are difficult to actually, tax. It's a big problem. We need to deal with it. There must be more ingenious, more creative ways of dealing with that problem. Otherwise, the needed revenue will not come for the new government to support its policies and programs.
Prof, hold on for me. Let me come to studio and speak to Doc. Doc, I mean, you drive past every traffic light and the teeming number of youth, boys and girls, dog chains, car dusters, boiled eggs, inflatable penguins, name it, coffee tables. I mean, number one, they are not trained for any job. Yeah. It's not that they don't want to work, but they are not carpenters, they are not plumbers, they are not farmers, they are not teachers. But we need to move all these, it's a danger to us. I mean, so going forward, what's the plan? I haven't heard anything other than we'll create jobs. What jobs are you going to create to fit this teeming number of youth?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you to my senior colleague, Prof. Aye. He actually gave me my job at the Political Science Department.
Oh, that's nice.
He was the Dean of the Faculty of Social Science, and he, along with the head of department, Prof. Boafata, hired me. I just finished my PhD in the States, and they invited me in. So thank you, Prof, for the congratulatory message.
So we are true.
Yes. First of all, let me address the tax issue because I think it ties in with the job thing. You know, one of the things that the party put forward in terms of broadening the tax base is to address three things: national identification, street naming, and zip code addressing. If we are able to succeed in doing that, and as Prof said, that cannot be done in the first 100 years or even 1 year. It will take, you know, it has taken us a whole lot of time to do just national identification. But if we are able to roll out these three things, you know, national identification all across board, street naming, zip coding, we should be able to capture the informal sector and be able to broaden your tax base. So we'll do that. Now, once you're able to broaden the tax base, it gives you space for creating jobs. And you can't create 100% jobs. So it's not everybody on the street, you know, or at the hawkers, at the traffic lights that you can absorb into the job market. But in their own way, they are doing their own thing. So what you have to do as a government is to come in and see how you can facilitate, make it much easier, much safer for them to trade, you know, to do their trade. So yeah, unfortunately, they have not been trained to be carpenters, or you can provide room for those who are willing to go into that. But those who want to stay hawking, it is incumbent on you as a government to create an enabling environment, you know, safe environment for them to do their trade, encourage them by, you know, giving them tax rebates or, you know, doing things that will make it more comfortable for them and safer for them to continue to ply it in their trade. But of course, there will be some of them. Look, there are graduates actually on that street, so it's not everybody who is not trained.
No, not every single one. It's just I'm generalizing.
I know. Yeah. So you can get some of them off by getting them into some you know, artisanic, you know, trade or whatever. But those who will want to stay, and trust me, there will be some of them who you want to put into carpentry or shoemaking, and they want to stay on the street. So it's for you as government to create that environment, that safe, enabling environment for them to. So we will try as much as possible to get some of them off into, you know, job opportunities, but also encourage those who want to stay on. It's a daunting task, but I think we knew that it is. I think the transition team is beginning to see the true state of the economy. We still don't have the full, you know, record of what it is, but hopefully after 7th January, it will come to dawn on us what we have inherited. I think Prof, you know, hit the nail. We have to manage expectations, and that will demand a lot of, you know, communication. You know, we have to be very smart in the way we communicate to the people, not dampen their spirits, not lower their expectations, but manage it in such a way that at least they will see us as a serious party. And I believe that within the next 2 to 3 years, even before the end of our first term in office, we will have achieved so much to gain the confidence of the Ghanaian people.
Very good. Let me catch up with some of the messages here. It will be unfair for me not to read it. No, this isn't the first time traders are reducing prices of things. The same was done in 2000 when ex-President Akufo won election. Abusukan traders did that. It's a characteristic of pro-NPP traders. Shipman in Atonsu Nana, I'm highly inspired by Dr. Ziblim's submission. Indeed, the NPP is business friendly, and I believe that with the able leadership of Nana Akufo-Addo, the Ghanaian worker will smile and our economy shall work again. Let me catch another one. This one says, good evening to you and your guest. My advice to the new government is that they should be mindful of the gargantuan corruption and mismanagement of public funds. Some of the causes of the NDC losing power, hence incoming government should not repeat such behavior because it will judge them in 2020. James from Techimine. Do I still have Professor Achu on the line? Prof, do I have you on the line?
Hello.
Oh, good. Prof, just let me just give you 1 minute. Corruption. What's the one thing you think incoming government should do with regards to corruption? Because it's another area where most of the monies are being siphoned.
I think we have the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan. That plan was designed in 2015. Its implementation has been slow. So we need to take hold, the new government will have to take hold of that plan and implement it to the later. And secondly, we should punish people if they have been found to be corrupt. This, selective way of punishing people for corruption will not help us. So I think that let us implement the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan and, of course, also deal with those who have been found to have engaged in corruption.
Very good. Thank you very much, Prof, for that. Let me catch up one message. I'll give the last word to Dr. Good evening, Nana. My sincere appeal goes to MPP guys to be careful when they take over governance and desist from careless talks. They should learn from Felix Kwachi, Peter, Mutala Muhammad, Amaliba, etc., who managed and brought Mahama down through their careless talks and arrogance. MPP should learn from that. Ghana needs intellectuals, not Lomobo preachers, insults. Jake from Navrongo. Thank you very much, Jake, for that message. We'll catch up with a couple more. This one says, Mr. Doctor, tell us what the former President J. Akufo used the HIPIC benefits for. We are told this money was used for building public toilets, which cannot yield anything back to government. Was that the right move by the government? Really? Who told you that? And this one says, Nana, greet my honorable for me and tell him to make us happy by fulfilling his promise. This is Abdullah in Gushegu.
Oh, great.
So let me give you, yes, let me give you the last one.
Well, thank you. I think, first of all, let me say that you can trust the president-elect to surround himself with the men and women who will be able to, help him carry out these promises. I think one of the sad commentary of the past 8 years was that both Mills, President Mills, Prof. Mills, and President Mahama saddled this country with too much experimentation with inexperienced hands and loaded with mediocrity. And that affected how governance was. Statecraft is serious business. And so one of the things that I get excited about is that we have a party and a leader that has the men and women that we can surround ourselves with. And if that, it's taken us a while to put it together, but I think we'll get there. We'll put the team together. And once Ghanaians see the caliber of people that Nana has surrounded himself with, the confidence will even go high, and we'll be able to come through with our promises. And trust me, we will fulfill, not 100%, but others will fulfill our promises enough to satisfy you and other Ghanaians to maintain us in power 2020.
Well, I will not let you down, says Nana Addo. And every time I end, I give you this number, and it's 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. Tantis Fashions, they supply my shirts for the show. Give them a call, and they'll certainly get you one. Male or female, they will get you too. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Doc, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nana. It's a pleasure to be in your presence.
It was an honor.
Yes, thank you so much.